Let me start with a question most people never answer honestly. When you hear the word millionaire, what image pops into your head? Maybe someone stepping out of a luxury car, living in a massive house with a long driveway, wearing expensive watches and designer clothes, taking vacations that cost more than most people's yearly salary. That's the picture we've been shown our entire lives. Movies show it, social media shows it, advertisements sell it. But according to the research in the Millionaire Next Door, that picture is mostly fiction because the real millionaires don't look rich. They don't try to stand out. They don't chase attention. And they definitely don't spend money just to impress people they barely know. In fact, many of them live in ordinary neighborhoods, drive practical cars, and wear simple clothes. You might walk past them at the grocery store and never notice. They're not flashy. They're disciplined. And once you understand how they actually live, your entire idea of wealth starts to shift. The authors, Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko, spent years studying wealthy individuals across the United States. They didn't focus on celebrities. They didn't study tech billionaires. They studied everyday millionaires. Teachers, engineers, contractors, small business owners, accountants, people with normal careers. Their goal was simple: figure out how ordinary people actually become wealthy. So they interviewed thousands of millionaires, analyzed their spending habits, tracked their investments, and compared their behavior to people with similar incomes who never became rich. And what they discovered surprised almost everyone, because income alone was not the deciding factor. Behavior was. Here's the myth most people believe: high income automatically leads to wealth. But the research showed something very different. Many high earners were financially fragile. They made good money, but they spent almost all of it. Nice house, luxury car, expensive lifestyle. From the outside, they looked successful, but behind the scenes, their savings were small. Their investments were limited, and their financial future was uncertain. Meanwhile, people with more modest incomes quietly built massive wealth over time. Not because they earned more, because they kept more. One of the most powerful ideas from the book is this: wealth is invisible. You can see income, you can see spending, you can see status, but you cannot see savings, you cannot see investments, you cannot see financial security. And that's why so many people misunderstand what wealth really looks like. Someone driving a brand new luxury car might be drowning in debt. Someone driving a 10-year-old sedan might have millions invested in the stock market. The difference isn't appearance, it's discipline. The researchers identified two major financial personalities: underaccumulators of wealth and prodigious accumulators of wealth. Underaccumulators earn good money, sometimes very good money, but they spend heavily. They upgrade their lifestyle every time their income increases. New phone, new car, bigger house, more expensive habits. Their spending grows as fast as their income, so their wealth never has a chance to grow. Prodigious accumulators behave differently. They resist lifestyle inflation. They save consistently. They invest patiently. They focus on long-term results instead of short-term comfort. And over time, the gap between these two groups becomes enormous. One of the most dangerous financial traps is lifestyle inflation. This happens when your spending increases every time your income increases. You get a raise. Instead of saving more, you upgrade your lifestyle. Better apartment, nicer car, more dining out, more subscriptions. Soon your expenses rise to match your income, and you feel just as broke as before. This trap is incredibly common. It keeps people working longer than they planned. It keeps them stressed about money, and it delays financial freedom by decades. Most millionaires live below their means. This is the core habit shared by almost every millionaire in the study. They spend less than they earn, not occasionally, consistently. They budget carefully. They avoid unnecessary debt. They prioritize saving and investing. And they understand something simple but powerful: every dollar you don't spend becomes a worker for your future. That dollar can grow, it can earn interest, it can compound. but once it's spent, it's gone forever. One of the most surprising statistics from the book is this: most millionaires drive used cars, not because they can't afford new ones, because they understand depreciation. A brand new car loses value the moment you drive it off the lot. Thousands of dollars disappear instantly. Wealthy people see that loss clearly, so they choose reliability over status, function over appearance, value over ego. And that decision, repeated over years, saves them tens of thousands of dollars, money that can be invested instead. Another major difference between wealthy people and everyone else is planning. Millionaires plan their finances carefully. They know how much they earn, how much they spend, how much they save, how much they invest. They don't guess, they measure, because what gets measured gets managed. Without a plan, money disappears quietly. With a plan, money moves intentionally. Here's something many people misunderstand about wealth. Wealth is not about luxury, it's about freedom. Freedom to choose your work, freedom to leave a stressful job, freedom to support your family, freedom to retire when you want. Millionaires value independence more than appearance. They would rather own their time than impress strangers, and that mindset shapes every financial decision they make. The book also reveals a hard truth. Many people sabotage their own financial future without realizing it. They buy houses that stretch their budget. They finance cars they can barely afford. They spend to match their friends. They ignore saving until later. These decisions feel small in the moment, but over time, they add up. Debt grows, savings shrink, stress increases, and financial progress slows down. Trying to look rich is expensive. Designer clothes, luxury cars, high-end gadgets, fancy vacations. These purchases create a temporary feeling of success, but they rarely create lasting wealth, because status spending consumes the very money that could have been invested. It trades future freedom for present attention, and that trade is almost never worth it. At the heart of the book is a mindset shift. Wealthy people think differently about money. They ask questions like, is this purchase necessary? Is this investment smart? Is this expense helping my future? They focus on long-term security instead of short-term satisfaction. They delay gratification, and that patience becomes their greatest advantage. One of the most powerful forces in finance is compound growth. Small amounts of money invested consistently grow dramatically over time. For example, saving $500 per month might not feel impressive, but over decades, with steady returns, that habit can turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars, not because of luck, because of consistency. This is how wealth is built, slowly, quietly, predictably. Here's the truth the book makes very clear. There is no secret formula, no magic investment, no shortcut. Wealth comes from simple habits repeated over long periods of time. Spend less than you earn, save consistently, invest patiently, avoid unnecessary debt. These habits are not exciting, but they are powerful. You don't need to be a financial genius to build wealth. You don't need a perfect job. You don't need to predict the stock market. You need discipline, because discipline turns ordinary income into extraordinary results. It protects your future, it creates stability, and it gives you control over your life. One of the most inspiring lessons from the Millionaire Next Door is this: most millionaires are not extraordinary people. They are ordinary people with consistent habits. They save more than others. They spend less than others. They plan more than others. They stay patient longer than others. That's their advantage. Not luck, not genius. Consistency. The final lesson. Here's the idea that changed how millions of people think about money. Looking rich and being rich are not the same thing. Looking rich is temporary.
Being rich is permanent. Looking rich requires spending. Being rich requires discipline. And once you understand that difference, your financial decisions start to change. Because wealth isn't built in one big moment. It's built in thousands of small choices, every paycheck, every purchase, every habit. And over time, those choices shape your future. Not luck, not talent, not income. Choices. That's the real message of the Millionaire Next Door. And it's a message that can change your life.